In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Hello and welcome to a new podcast, The Paddock and the Pavilion with Stephen Wallace. In each show, Stephen will interview someone connected to the world of horse racing or cricket.
Hello and welcome to The Paddock and the Pavilion. Today we have gone international. For episode 25, I caught up with Harry Vaheesan, the manager of the Jaffna Stallions, who in December won the inaugural Lankan Premier League in Hanbantota. Harry, who lives and breathes cricket, talked about what the win meant for Jaffna, working with international cricket stars like Pakistan international Shoaib Malik, and his own coaching career, including spells in the UK with Cambridgeshire junior sides and Marchtown Cricket Club. Enjoy the show. Hello, Harry. A warm welcome to you on the Paddock and the Pavilion. A happy new year.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for inviting me to speak a few words or interact with you on Paddock and Pavilion. Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you too.
Well, it's great to see you again. And firstly, congratulations on managing the Jaffna Stallions to success in the Lankan Premier League.
Thanks for your best wishes and congratulations. It was a pleasure to manage the Jaffna Stallions, and I'm in a humble position after winning the tournament. I'm very humbled to be the manager of the winning LPL inaugural season.
To start with, what has it been like living in Sri Lanka since the pandemic outbreak?
From what I'm hearing from the world, it's not as bad as the Western world. But saying that, still living in pandemic situations, indoors some of the time. Since March of this year, almost 6 months we were indoors. So on that basis, it has been a bit difficult, but it's not as bad as the Western world.
No. So we're in a tier 4 situation here where we're advised to stay at home. So with the prospect of the short term of it getting worse. But let's get back to some good news and about the cricket. How did you get the team manager's job at the Jaffna Stallions?
A consortium of my friends bought the franchise, but from almost day one, they were using me as a sounding board before they got involved. And basically, I was on an advisory capacity at the beginning. And at one point, a chap who was supposed to take over as the manager couldn't make it. And they asked whether I would oblige by taking it over. And really by default, because I had other commitments. In fact, I went for a meeting to Colombo for a couple of days. And suddenly I had to ring my family and say that I had to go to Kandy and Hanbantota, and I'll be back only after almost 1.5 months. So really it was by default. But saying that at the moment, as I said, I'm very humbled to be in this position.
And what was bubble life like? And so you said about six weeks in a bubble. What's it like? We're all living in a bubble to a degree, but not to the degree you were.
Yeah, the bubble life was not easy. The first 4 or 5 days we were in Kandy, which wasn't too bad. But once we got to Hanbantota, the first 7 days we were strictly quarantined by ourselves in our rooms. It was like a prison cell where the food was served to your room and you had to be confined to the room. Those 7 days were pretty much difficult. And once we moved out and we were able to mingle, it wasn't too bad. Saying that, even although all 5 teams were in the same hotel, we were in different bubbles. And when days went by, it became much easier.
Right, yeah. That's what you hear about with the England cricketers who've gone out to the Big Bash. They had sort of 2 weeks in their rooms. So the competition had 5 teams: the Colombo Kings, Dambulla Vikings, the Gaul Gladiators, the Kandy Tuskers, and the Jaffna Stallions. Why were they called the Stallions?
They were called the Stallions because if you connect the Jaffna Kings, they were on horses. And even the temples in Jaffna, they very much have horses or stallions as a symbol. So that is one of the reasons why we were called the Stallions.
And what was it like working with international cricketers? You had Duanne Olivier, the South African, Shoaib Malik.
It was superb. It was honestly superb. And all of them, in a way, looked up to me for some reason. They were calling me legend, X, Y, Z. Perhaps the way I operated myself, and I got on well with them. And in fact, I got on very well with all 6 of them.
And you had some Sri Lankan players who are currently in South Africa in your team as well.
Yes, indeed. 4 of them are there. To name them, Suranga, Lakmal, who has captained Sri Lanka in the past. We have Minod Bhanuka, who is a fresher. I think he's making his debut as we speak. And Dhananjaya De Silva, one of the better players. And I'm missing one, Wanindu Hasaranga, who obviously made the debut in the last game. And also our team analyst, GGT Niroshan, is also with the South African team at the moment.
Now, talking about the competition, you started really well. You won your first 4 games and then lost 3 of your last 4 in the group matches, qualified for the semi-finals. But when you lined up for the semi-final, how confident were you of beating Dambulla?
I will go a bit backwards and I'll start from the beginning. I don't know whether you saw the clip where I made the team talk before we went for the first practice session at Hanbantota. I did mention that we are winning the tournament. Winning is not everything. Winning is the only thing. And to a great degree, I believed in it. And we went on to win the first 4 matches and be the first team to qualify for the semi-finals. And once we qualified for the semi-finals, we made some tactical decisions to rest our players and also experiment players. 2 reasons. 1, obviously, we want to try different combinations. 2, we didn't want any injuries. And even at that point, I was still confident. If we really wanted to win all the games or most of the games and go into the finals and win the finals, I think it was quite possible. But some of our players would have broken down, which you saw with other teams. So once we came to the semi-final, we came back to the original sort of combination. And we ensured that we won the semi-final and the final. And even after the semi-final victory, I did mention that I'm quietly confident that we are going all the way.
Oh, it's an interesting concept there. And I can see the benefits as well, because the team that you played in the final were only 4th in the group. So they came with a late run as well, didn't they? The Gaul Gladiators.
Yes, absolutely. The Gaul Gladiators, we had already beaten them twice in the preliminary rounds. And on that basis, we were confident that we will beat them in the final as well.
Now, just for listeners, in the final, Jaffna batted first and got 188 for 6, and Gaul finished on 135 for 9. How did the game go for you?
In my view, to be very honest, again, I don't know whether I'm being overconfident. I think in the first 3 overs of our batting, I felt that the game was sealed, because I think in 2.1 overs, we were 32. By the end of the 3rd over, we were almost 40 for no loss. Johnson Charles and Avishka Fernando were going great guns. At that point, I felt we were going to get a reasonable score. In fact, I was aiming for 200. We ended up with 188. And I think 188 was a very good score with our bowling attack.
And what was your immediate reaction after lifting the trophy?
Emotions were running very high, and I was in a humble position, but emotions were absolutely running very high. But emotions were running higher after the semi-final win, in fact, because it was something that I or the team really wanted to do to get into the finals. Once we got into the finals, as I said, we were quietly confident.
And which players from the Jaffna team stood out during the competition?
Certainly, as you have mentioned, Wanindu Hasaranga was a superb player, superb find for Sri Lanka. They had already found him, but he showed his class, became the man of the tournament, and he has showed that in his debut test match, we are taking 4 wickets and scoring a 50. I think he's the first Sri Lankan to do that in test cricket. And no doubt, out of the overseas players, Shoaib Malik is a standout player. We don't have to sort of tell the world about his abilities. He was the man of the match in the final.
And what does this mean?
I should mention, sorry, Stephen, I should really mention our skipper Thisara Perera's hard hitting as well, where he bailed out us in 2 games, and also Avishka Fernando, who did a great job and bailed out in 2 games as well.
No, thank you for that. What does this mean for cricket in Jaffna? I've read lots of stories about troubles that Jaffna suffered with the Civil War. What does this mean for cricket in that area?
It means quite a lot for the people of Jaffna because of the war situation. There has been a lot of disarray in the last 10 years, even after the war, misleading youngsters going in the wrong path. So this has brought Jaffna together and focused them in sports and concentrate on sports than other irregular activities. And what has also happened is the diaspora Tamils who are living abroad are coming forward to putting up turf wickets in their own villages. In fact, already 2 or 3 people have got in touch with me to help them to connect with people, sort of do that for them in their own villages. I would like to add something more. Jaffna has only 1 school which has turf wickets at the moment, and another school where within the last year, I, along with another friend of mine, helped as well to put some side turfs. These are the only 2 turf wickets in Jaffna, 1 middle turf and 1 side turf. So now what is going to crop up is quite a lot of turf wickets in village clubs as well as schools.
And there's talk of an academy as well, I read.
Yeah, Jaffna Stallions are working on an academy. There is something else which I will be launching along with a friend of mine pretty soon. But unfortunately, I'm not in a position to sort of expand on that information, which will be launched hopefully within the next month or 2.
Well, the best of luck to that. Looks like you've made and starting to make a real difference in an area that has suffered in the past.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah, thank you.
Now, can we just go back to your own background yourself? And where were you born and your roots really in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, I was born in Colombo in 1966. That shows my age. I'm 54 years of age now. But my both my parents are, their roots are from Jaffna, from 2 different villages. In fact, I'm living in one of my ancestral homes, my mom's home at the moment. And I played cricket in a school called DS Senanayake College, where I played from under 13 to first 11, along with the legendary Aravinda de Silva and Hashan Tilakaratne, both of whom captained Sri Lanka.
Because school cricket's very big in Sri Lanka, isn't it?
Definitely, school cricket is very, very big. I remember the younger days when I was young. Dulwich College used to visit or tour Sri Lanka with cricket and rugby. And Dulwich used to thrash the Sri Lankan schools in rugby, and the Sri Lankan schools used to thrash Dulwich in cricket. So that shows the comparison in school cricket.
Now, I know some of your cricketing playing background, but could you let listeners know, the various clubs that you've played for and the people who made a difference to you when you were playing for them?
In fact, I started playing cricket at school, obviously, but unfortunately, after the 1983 disturbances in Sri Lanka, I moved to India in 1985, I think. In 1985/6, I played some cricket in India for a junior club. I represented something called the Tamil Nadu Junior Course. At that point of time, I faced S. Venkat Raghavan, who became an international umpire later on, who captained India as well. Since then, I moved to England. Cutting a long story short, I played some club cricket for a club called Surbiton Tamils, which was renamed as Surrey Seamers. And then I got involved in cricket business. I had my own brand called VIV, and I had a small cricketing shop along with a friend of mine in Oxford Circus in the heart of London. And my business partner, who is still a friend of mine, went on to become the owner of Cricket Direct. I think it is the largest cricket shop in the world, if I'm not making a mistake, Cricket Direct. At that point, we used to have a very strong league, and the league contained of about 8 Sri Lankan amateur clubs, whereas others played as well. To name a few, even Saurav Ganguly, before he got into the Indian team, he played in our league for another club. And Alvin Kalicharan himself, the former West Indian captain, played for my club a few games. And there were people like Muthaiya Muralidharan and few other Sri Lankan players, some other Indian players, Alistair Fraser, Angus's brother, Carlos Remy, who played for Sussex, I think, and Umar Rashid, unfortunately, who passed away at a young age, who perhaps would have played for England. The list goes on like that. And since then, I played for another couple of clubs in England, in London, a club called Sri Lankan Middlesex, then a club called Marcus Cricket Club. Unfortunately, these two clubs don't exist anymore. And since then, I moved to Cambridgeshire. And when I moved to Cambridgeshire, perhaps you won't like this story, you may not. I visited Marchtown Cricket Club and Doddington. And I had a chat with my wife. I asked, where should I play? And she said, why don't you help the small village club? Hence, I joined Doddington without joining March. And I'm happy that I joined Doddington in one sense. I'm sad that it doesn't exist anymore. The club doesn't exist anymore. I think in 10 years, we came up 7 divisions with the help of myself and another legendary cricketer of Cambridgeshire, Kieran Brambert. And since then, once I played a couple of games for Marchtown as well. And when Marchtown Cricket Club went down to Tucker 2, I think it was called Tucker 1 and Tucker 2 at the time, I was asked whether I could become the coach of the club, because at that time I was coaching junior cricketers in Cambridgeshire. Something noteworthy for me to mention is I did coach Max Holden, who went on to captain England under 19s, and Chris Pepper, who played for Essex a few games, and Michael Pepper, who played for Essex. With Max Holden, I would like to mention a small story. He was predominantly a left-hand batsman, and he was scoring hell of a lot of runs. He averaged 125 when he played under 14s and when he was under 13, really, for me. At that point of time, I gave him to bowl because, without mentioning names of coaches, they were reluctant to give him to bowl because he's doing all the batting. They have to give everyone a chance. But I thought, no, this boy has something in him. I gave him to bowl. There are other coaches, parents who are asking me questions. But I said, no, he's the best bowler we have to open the bowling with off spin. Let him have a go with off spin. So I think that department also helped him to get into the England under-19 setup. He bowls part-time off spinners. I still believe he has the ability to get into the England team, but I would have expected him to be in it, but he hasn't performed enough. Perhaps he's still young and that will happen. Coming back to Marchtown Cricket Club, so the very first year itself, I was able to help the club to bring the club back to Tucker 1. And since then, we have worked very hard. And last year, before I left England to come to Sri Lanka, we managed to end up 4th, beating the arch rivals Wisbech in 4 games, I think.
Yeah, that'll get some people from Wisbech listening to the show now, Harry.
Going back just facts.
Yeah, you're like Rafa Benitez now. Now, if we go back to just a little bit to your Cambridgeshire coaching days, what attracted you to coaching in the first place?
At Doddington, I think there was some help needed, so I just thought I will help them out. At that point, I was not a qualified coach, and then I did my level 1. And then I was in India for 2-3 years. Once I got back, I wanted to do something different. At that point of time, I thought I had been breathing cricket from the age of about 5, so almost half a decade, half a century now. So at that point, 30, 40 years, I've been breathing cricket, I've been living cricket, although I haven't played at the highest level. I thought I should give something back to the game, and I decided to go into coaching.
It's obviously something you've got a passion for, coaching, though, yeah.
Yes, certainly, no doubt.
Well, interesting to hear what you said about Max Holden there. Hopefully, people develop at different stages that he'll still come through and play for England. But moving forward then on the England sort of tone, England have just arrived actually in Sri Lanka and are due to play a test series against Sri Lanka starting on the 14th of January at Galle. What do you think about the series? What do you think about England's chances of winning?
I think, in my personal view, I haven't followed enough international cricket very lately, especially because of the pandemic as well as the LPL and so forth. From my reasonably limited knowledge. I think both teams are evenly balanced. Perhaps Sri Lanka has a bit of home advantage.
So do you think, is the Galle wicket normally a spinner's paradise?
Generally, it is a spinner's paradise, and there are a lot of good spinners coming through with the Sri Lankan side, I think, which will help Sri Lanka.
So have you got a prediction then, just on the series?
2 test series, am I right?
2 test matches. They're both at Galle, yes.
Yeah, 1-0 to Sri Lanka.
It's very hot in Galle, isn't it? Yeah?
It is very hot. It can be humid and hot, yes.
Yeah, I know. I've been to Colombo, but my father and other friends of mine have been to Galle, and they say it's even hotter than Colombo.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, and humid, as I said. Yeah.
Well, let's hope England do what they did last time we went to Sri Lanka. And we won 3-0. Although this time we're missing Ben Stokes and Jofra Archer. But just going to something we feature on this show about the guests' favourites. I just wondered if you could let me know your favourite batsman and why.
The Master Blaster, Viv Richards. The name itself says Master Blaster. That's the reason.
Yep. And what about your favourite bowler?
Favourite bowler, I have to really think about it. Let me think. It's a difficult one for me.
I thought you were going to...
I would say Shane Warne.
Oh, not Murali. You won't want this show to go out to anyone else in Sri Lanka now.
No, what about I always speak my mind.
And what about your favourite ground?
My favourite ground would be Lord's.
And have you got a favourite?
I haven't played on it.
You haven't? No.
I haven't.
And what about your favourite other sport?
Certainly my second sport, which I don't follow much at the moment, unfortunately, was rugby football. I have played rugby at school back home in Sri Lanka. I used to coach rugby as well.
And looking to the future, the LPL is going ahead again. I think, is it in May 2021?
July, August. They've said July, August.
July, August, right, yeah. And you're hoping again to be working with the Jaffna Stallions?
It's very difficult for me to say because once the project which I am working on is launched, it is a huge project and my time is going to be dedicated to that particular project. But certainly my help and guidance will be with Jaffna Stallions, no doubt. Good.
And your future personally, is it going to be more involved in this project? No plans to return to the UK?
Yeah, once the project kicks off, I think 3 to 6 years I am going to be involved in the project. But certainly there will be visits to the UK because UK is home.
Right. Well, hopefully we'll get to see you back at Marchtown Cricket Club, where you were the Club Person of the Year in 2019.
That was a proud moment as well, to be honest.
Yeah, thank you. And hopefully when the pandemic eases, you'll be able to fly back sometime later this year to see us all.
Certainly, that's the plan, to be honest. Sooner rather than later, I want to make a visit. Last year, we wanted to come that way, but unfortunately, the pandemic didn't help. But certainly, sooner rather than later, I would like to come then, ideally during the summer, so that I can watch a bit of cricket at the club.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion. Stay safe and best of luck with your project.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Stay safe and stay blessed.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to The Paddock and the Pavilion. You can download the show on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher and Spotify. Follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Pad and Pad.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.